Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Like I said in my previous video, getting a lot of editing done. So for these cards, I had the idea to create flat shaker cards that are also window cards. So I started with black cardstock that I had cut in half and then scored at 5.5 inches. And then I have 2 more pieces of cardstock that are A2 sized, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I am taking my T-square ruler and I'm marking the middle, so 2 1/8 inch, and drawing with a pencil. This is going to make it easier for me to line up my window wafer die. I technically could have layered just the piece of cardstock on top of the card base and tried to die cut through both at the same time, but that starts getting a little iffy, and I don't like trying to die cut through more than one layer at a time. It leaves like really big creases, you know, things like that, and this for me was the easiest. So I'm doing this with my card base as well, just marking the center with a pencil and my ruler. Once I have that marked, I'm going to line up my window die. I'm using the Snowflake Trio wafer die set from Simon. I'm just using, there's the outline and then the snowflakes. There's actually 3 different types. I'm going to use 2 today. So I marked where I'm going to line up that snowflake, and then it was just easier to put the other piece right beside it. So there I've got my, visual grid basically. So I know exactly where I want to line up this window. So I'm going to tape this wafer die into place on my card base, run it through my die cut machine, and I've got a window cut out from the card front. Once I have that window cut out, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the separate piece of black cardstock. So I'm just going to line it up using those lines I drew, and then tape that into place, run it through my die cut machine. This way I've got the 2 pieces so I can sandwich all of the little shaker bits and whatnot in between them, which you'll see, and I'll show you guys how I did it. And I'm going to repeat this process for the second card in the exact same way, so I'm not going to bother showing that on video. So once I'm done the die cutting, I can take my eraser and just erase those pencil lines. I had considered doing this on white cardstock originally, but decided to go with black. I'm back in the black, gold, and white color combo, my fave. I have a playlist with a ton of videos, and I just posted one, was that yesterday, day before, something, doing black, gold, and white, and yeah, the wheels started turning, and I was like, ooh, I need to do this again. So I have my card front. I thought about trimming this panel down to be slightly smaller, but then decided to keep it A2 sized, because it'll look kind of nicer, and it kind of makes everything look a little more seamless in a sense. So everything is lined up, and I'm just taking some recycled packaging. This is my collection. This is the same stuff I use for my edge-to-edge shaker cards, the flat shaker cards I've been doing that I'll foil on, etc. This is the packaging, that cardstock comes in. My envelopes sometimes come in this, things like that. I save it all, and then I use it, and I've done a whole bunch of videos. So I took pieces of that, and I'm going to line the edge, this is on the card base, all around the perimeter of this window with red line adhesive. You want to use a good, strong adhesive. I do not like using liquid adhesive for things like this because it can get messy. It works, but it can get messy. So red line is the way to go. And then I cut apart my pieces. So I've got 2 pieces of plastic packaging. And then I have a piece of paper towel here. This was a trick that one of my fabulous subscribers told me, and it's a game changer, especially in the winter, because everything is so extra dry here because it's so cold. Things are extra staticky, and that's my only hatred of red line tape, is the staticky. But if you lay out a piece of paper towel, it just clings to it. And then when I'm done, I can just gather that up, and I just reuse the paper towel, for everything. So I peeled off the backing to my red line tape, pressed down this piece of recycled packaging. So I've got that pressed down, everything's good to go. Now I need to add another perimeter of that same red line tape all the way around the window. Once I've done that, I'm going to peel this off. I want to peel this off before I put in my little shaker bits, because again, staticiness, the red line, it would just make a mess. So once you've removed the backing, you want to be careful and not get any of these bits like kind of stuck into the adhesive. I started with my fingers because I wasn't thinking, and again, staticiness, everything's clinging. So I grabbed my little spoon and I'm using Studio Katia's Snowflake glitter and the Celebration like confetti mix, which is perfect. It's white and gold and black. It's like it was made for me. And it's in all different sizes. It's beautiful. I love it. So I sprinkled that in there and then pressed the second piece in to that adhesive. And now all of that is sealed in there. This looks like a hot mess. Doesn't matter. No one's going to see it when I'm done. So I used my big scissors to just kind of trim off some of the excess bits on the corners and whatnot, just to make things a little easier to adhere the top, like the card, technically the card front. And then again, I added just one more layer of red line tape just so that I can seal the card front on top. And then I'm going to use craft tacky glue on the rest of this because it's just cardstock. When you're adhering cardstock to cardstock, something like craft tacky glue does wonders, quick and easy. So I'm applying that adhesive, and then I'm just going to lay my card front right on top, just lining it up with the window and the edges and whatnot. And once that's lined up, I can press this down really, really well. And now I've got my window that goes to the inside of the card, but it's also a shaker and it's also flat, which is fabulous. Because yeah, I don't mind making shaker cards, but it's so much more of a pain in the butt when you're messing around with the foam tape. So anywho, I did the exact same thing to the second card. I just used one of the other wafer dies in the set. And then I kept the negative pieces. I wasn't going to do this originally, but you guys know me. But I'm going to splatter. So I put those on top of the windows because I don't want to get splatter on that packaging because it won't dry. It's plastic. The splatter's not going to dry, so it's just going to create a mess. So the windows are just the extra pieces are just there to keep the splatter from getting all over that. And then I'm going to splatter this with my Avery L white spray that I just pour out on my little palette and use my fan brush. Like I said, I wasn't originally going to do this. I was going to kind of keep it a little more clean and simple, but one, I can't because I'm addicted to splatter. And two, this actually for me relieves a lot of like stress because I'm always concerned. It's like I get smudges, even though it's black cardstock, I'm guaranteed to get like smudges and blots and just things everywhere. So if it's got splatter, you don't notice it. That's the miracle of splatter. So I did the white splatter and then of course had to add some gold. So I have the Zig gold liquid that I've been showing in my recent videos that I'm loving. The Gonzai Tombi Starry colors that I always just use as well. That works great too. Whatever floats your boat. So I let that completely dry. Then I removed the pieces that were on top of the windows. And then the actual snowflakes I die cut from Simon's matte gold cardstock. And then to adhere them to that window packaging, I'm using glossy accents. You want a good strong adhesive. And for something like this, I prefer glossy accents because it's literally glossy. So if some does ooze out or if I have to shift it a little bit, you're not really going to notice. Whereas if I used any other type of adhesive that dries more matte, it'll probably show up a bit more. So method to the madness. So I just lightly paint, basically, like kind of trace the back of the snowflake with my little glossy accents. I'm not squeezing very hard. Just apply a nice little amount all over. I try to get like every little bit of these snowflakes because I want them to adhere really well. So I just go around, add that bit of adhesive, and then flip this over, center it there, stick it into place, and then I just stuck acrylic blocks on top to hold it down and let it dry. So now I've got my window with my little snowflake. And then the sentiment is from the new Just Because wafer die. This wafer die does have an outline as well, but I use just the words. And I die cut them 3 times from white cardstock, stacked those 3 layers together for that dimension that I love. And then I'm going to adhere that below the window. And then same thing, just stick acrylic blocks on top to hold it down. And then I did the same thing with the second card. And then once I've got that adhered, I want to add a white panel to the inside of the card. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't when I do dark card bases, but this time I purposely wanted a white panel on the inside because that makes the window portion on the front of the card show up even more because it gives that snowflake that white background. So I have pieces of white cardstock that I cut to smaller than the A2 card front. They're like 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the All About You stamp set just along the bottom, because I don't want that to show through the window either. And it just says, "You are awesome." So I lined that up in my Misty along the bottom of these panels, and I'm just going to stamp that with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. And then in that little stamp set, there's a couple little solid heart images. So I thought it'd be kind of cute, and it just kind of fit there on the right. So I took the one little heart image and lined it up. And I'm going to ink this up with the Delicata Golden Glitz ink. Now, I've said this a million times. I love this ink. It's like my favorite gold pigment ink. These types of inks are not the greatest when it comes to solid images. You'll notice it kind of not quite beads, like it beads up on the cardstock, not the stamp. So it'll look a little weird. So what I did is I stamped it twice with that Delicata Golden Glitz ink, and then I kind of blotted it with just my scrap of black cardstock, and that just kind of picked up the excess that makes that weird look. I don't know. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. But anywho, made sure those inks were completely dry, because both those inks take a long time to dry. Made sure they were dry before adhering those panels to the inside of the card. And then once those are adhered, these cards are complete. I didn't add any bling to the outside. I know, shocker. But I had the splatter, and then the bling is technically encased in the flat shaker. And then I've got the gold cardstock, and I paired these, of course, with gold envelopes. And they're just fun. They're so much fun. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. As I'm filming this, as I'm editing this, it is New Year's Eve. All fingers, toes, everything crossed, positive vibes that 2022 is our year. So Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you all so much for the support, for taking the time out of your day to watch my videos, and for clicking on my links and everything. I appreciate all of you so much. Stay tuned. I have a ton of videos coming, and I have a very big giveaway coming, hopefully very, very soon. I just got to get some stuff filmed and edited and all that stuff. So all the info for this one, all the supplies I used, etc. I'll have a link below the video to my blog post with links to all of the supplies I used, so you can check it out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching. Happy New Year, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.